On the morning of May 21st, 2025, I stood outside those doors with Sarah as we greeted students from JDS who were sitting in this hall that day, when she was still flesh and blood, walking the earth among us. She told me that I was a lot stronger than her, braver than her. I always seemed to know what to do and how to hold myself. I told her, Sarah, I've seen a lot of things in my life. It's not what I wanted, but that's just life. To the day, it had been a month since I cleaned out my father's apartment and 6 months since his funeral. I communicated with Sarah a lot about some of my grief and the troubles that I experienced during that time. That week in particular, with the heavy waves of grief that I really couldn't shake, proved difficult for me. My father always insisted how important it was for me to be strong and to never be afraid, insisting that Schwupps are strong. They've seen the inside of gas chambers and still carry on. I recently read the book by Rachel Goldberg Pauline, When We See You Again, and she describes her own experiences in the process of grief and trauma, much of which resonated with me, with one quote standing out in particular. What I realize now, since my heart is shattered into tiny pieces, is that it is easier to share than when it was one mighty, solid, and strong heart. So take a shard. Be careful. They're sharp. This made me think of the ancient Jesuit teaching by St. Ignatius of Loyola, who described that our hearts must be broken in order for the divine light to enter. A friend once described it to me as the more holes we have, the more whole we become. Holy even. Of course, in the case of Sarah and Yaron, this uplifting metaphor becomes anything but, recognizing how many bullets each of them took in the human safari that unfolded after the AJC Young Diplomats event outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. Without knowing what horrors were actively taking place mere feet away from me, only recognizing that loud popping noises were bouncing off the tops of the buildings around us, with the concern of whether or not they were fireworks, I darted, ran, and crawled under a nearby SUV after recognizing that I was running in a straight line. From underneath the parked SUV, I desperately looked up to the sky in the hopes that I overreacted and that indeed fireworks could be seen in the evening twilight. There were no fireworks. In the days following the attack, I was asked repeatedly if I had had any prior military training, if I had ever shot a gun, or if I had ever worked in security. I baffled the professionals in the field because according to them, my reaction time was completely unexpected for a civilian like myself. After days of asking me those same 3 questions on repeat, a clever man altered the question ever so slightly. Have you ever had any reaction training of any kind? I remember sitting back in the chair, leaning my head back and saying, I was a goalie for many years. This noticeably intrigued him. I went on to describe what it was like to be a goalie in field hockey, a position and a sport that I loved so dearly as a child, even bashfully admitting that I was unanimously voted the best field hockey goalie in the state of Michigan in 2014 by league coaches. At this point, he asked me, so when someone's coming at you trying to score a goal, what do you think? I remember laughing, and it was one of the few times I laughed during that time. I said, I can tell you've never been a goalie before, because you can't think in that position. You must trust your training and know what to do. I insisted that you cannot think, you must do. Hirsch's mom, throughout her book, specifically recounts days 100 and 250 as people remembering them because people like round numbers. I recognize that today is one of those days, the 1 year. A round number for all of us to gather to commemorate Sarah and Yaron of blessed memory. In my daily life, the loss I wear, not bear, I wear it, does not ebb and flow with the dates on a calendar. They are not time or space bound. They are omnipresent. How I live and breathe the attack, the fact that Sarah and Yaron aren't here, and I, despite the odds and logic, somehow am. As I have alluded to, I do not bear this pain, I wear it. Underneath my clothes, under my tongue, under and through every thought that my brain threads together. It's there. It's not something born, but rather something worn. I would like to thank each and every person, both in this room and beyond those doors, who has helped me this past year as I wear this pain day to day and moment to moment. I'm sorry you've had to as well. And I'm sorry that oftentimes I have not acknowledged your own trauma and pain that you wear. Please know that I recognize it, even if I have never said it to you directly. My physical presence brings me to ask myself, was it really the field hockey training all those years ago, my love for the game and the craft of stopping field hockey ball shots that unknowingly prepared me to outrun shots from the barrel of a gun? If you ask me honestly, Sarah and Yaron were ambushed and shot at such close range that all the goalie training in the world could not have prepared them to outmaneuver their executioner. He went after them first. Abby and I, we were next. People's parents died. I've said that a lot this past year as a mourning daughter, but what I can tell you is people don't get murdered walking outside of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Every single person in this room should think of themselves as passing through this horrific attack. Indeed, it could have happened to you. It could have been your parents, your children, your spouse, your siblings, your grandparents, and your friends mourning your death. Instead, it was Sarah and Yaron, and it could have very well been Abby and me too. I understand that Sarah and Yaron have become a symbol of what happens when hatred, anti-Semitism, and violence run unchecked. To me, and to those of us who knew them from the before times, as I call them, before they were abruptly and painfully forced out of our world, they were first and foremost people. Friends, colleagues, physical beings. And yet, I refuse to diminish the human nature of those who actively choose to commit these acts of violence. It detracts from the very real fact that these people are nothing more and nothing less than a human being. To call them idiots, animals, or monsters gives them an excuse, or perhaps even more troubling, the permission to pursue such heinous acts. Does that frighten you? It should. This world is not full of monsters, but human beings, just like you and me. From the back of Yad Vashem at the end of the museum, you can see the cemetery where Yaron is buried, while simultaneously hearing from the tour guide how we have moved beyond the times of the Holocaust and the murderous anti-Semitism of the Nazis and their collaborators. I urge you to reflect on that. Are we really so sure? To offer some reprieve, my father would say, there are more good people in this world than bad, but the catch is that it starts with you. I would like to close with a comment I saw on one of Sarah's old Instagram posts shortly after she was murdered. When I saw it, I didn't know who had posted it, but I knew that it embodies exactly the person that Sarah was. And I quote, "Thanks for being so sweet to me when many weren't. Rest easy to a forever friend and a sweet soul." That's who Sarah was. And I hate speaking about her in the past tense. I've gotten tired of it over the past year. She was a true friend, a true advocate, and a true kindred spirit. May the memories of Sarah Yaron always be a blessing, and may our work ensure that they will never be forgotten.